Beloved parents, guardians, loved ones, guests, faculty, fellow graduates, and friends, good evening. It is my honor to stand before you tonight to deliver a tribute to our parents. Now thinking back to all the times we have let you down, our parents, in these 17 or 18 years, it would not come to us as a surprise if the seats that you are seated in now were empty. Yet you are all here with us, for us. You're looking down from your seats at your student and smiling with pride. You might even be trying to hide back the tears that are welling up behind your eyes. Don't worry, we know that those tears are not of sadness, but they are tears of happiness and fulfillment. Students, do you remember your first day of kindergarten? Do you remember the fear and uncertainty that plagued each one of us at the thought of being away from our homes and our parents for an entire day? Do you remember that feeling of complete sorrow and insecurity, or perhaps even betrayal, as our parents turned around and walked out of the classroom door? Of course you do. Yet despite what many of us may have assumed, our parents were not leaving us with a group of complete strangers as a punishment. They partnered with us for those long 7 hours because of the responsibility they felt for us, for our futures. We kept arguing with our parents that we wanted to become the big boys and girls that stayed up until 9:30. And the only way to do that was by slowly growing up and leaving our home. As we grew into the first graders and second graders, we became more and more comfortable with our new lives at school. We learned to make friends, share our things, no matter how much we didn't want to, interact with others, and even upset our teachers with our devious but cunning little pranks. School was not always this flowery place, however. It definitely had its ups and downs. No matter how difficult our days at school were, though, we could always count on one thing: to see you, our parents, at the end of the day. You would come to school to pick us up, or be waiting back at home impatient to hear about our day. While we may have assumed you were only interested in how many timeouts we had earned that day, or how many rules we had broken, it is clear now that you were genuinely interested in being a part of our lives. You simply wanted to know how everything had gone for us. And although it took us this long to realize it, we thank you. It is because of your love, sacrifices, faithful prayers, and patience, especially your patience, that we are all here today, ready to walk across this stage and step into the next chapter of our lives. You are the ones who provided the solid foundation we needed to reach this point. Our journeys may not have been easy, yet we cannot imagine how much more difficult they would have been without all of your undenying love and support. Parents, you have been there for our successes. You've been there for our failures. You've offered helping hands when we were too afraid or just too tired to pick our own selves up. When we would take steps down the wrong path, you were always there to help us up and find our way to the correct one. As long as we've had you, we have never been completely alone, and we thank you for that. You have invested everything you have in us, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially. Especially financially, because you all know how expensive we've been. You went into this full-time job of parenting, knowing that we would never be able to repay you for all the love that you have shown us. Yet you have never let that stop you from pouring all that you are and all that you have into us. You all knew this day would come. I understand, though, that somewhere in your minds, you kind of hoped it wouldn't. Not because you didn't want us to grow up, but because it would be difficult to close this chapter in both of our lives. We may no longer live at home. You may not see us every day. you won't be able to protect us from the world as you did before. We might, in a few months, be moving out. Our rooms might not be as noisy, though they would definitely be cleaner without a disorderly teenager throwing clothes and papers all over the ground. Our rooms might even smell differently. For you girls that spray perfumes in your room because you think it makes it smell pretty, it might not change too much. But for us guys, wow, the change is going to be really noticeable. You would, for once, smell a room to be clean. Now, before we flip this last page in this chapter of our lives, we want to make sure to thank you for everything you have done for us. Thank you for the morals you have instilled in us. Thank you for the sacrifices you have made for us. And thank you for the love you have always shown us. Thank you. This celebration is as much ours as it is yours. And it is now my pleasure and privilege to introduce a special form of reminiscence for our parents and students. Here is Hannah Stansberry to sing The Way We Were.
He is the son of Paul Garcia and Rebecca Alvarado. Will Mr. Garcia and Ms. Alvarado please rise, and any other family members that are with you? Thank you. Over the last 4 years, Carlos has attained a GPA of 4.84.
Dang.
While at Arlington Heights, Carlos has been an active member of the National Honor Society and French Club and served as the varsity swim team captain, senior steering committee vice president, and senior class vice president. Carlos's honors include straight A academic role, AHHS Academic Excellence Award, graduated the MS Swearing Program with high honors, AP Scholar with honors, Radio Shack Scholar, and Yellow Jacket Scholar. And when not in school, Carlos enjoys swimming not only competitively, but also for leisure. In August, Carlos will attend Northwestern University, where he will major in molecular biology or biochemistry. Ladies and gentlemen, Carlos Machado.
Do you know what the hardest part about writing this speech was? It was not thinking about what to write or the countless Google searches of inspirational quotes. It was the many people who came up to me and said, "You need to put me in that speech." It was no easy task to think of what they might want me to say about them or how I should even say it. If I were to only write one sentence about each of them, about each person that has touched my life, I would be speaking to all of you for hours. Perhaps that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it would definitely take longer than any one of us can handle. I mean, we all want to continue with the festivities, and we all have some type of plan for tonight. For some, that means going to Alley Cats and playing a couple of bowling games or getting a team together for laser tag. By the way, knockouts, we're still on for tonight, right? Do you remember the first day of high school? Do you remember the first person you talked to that day? I had just moved to Fort Worth from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I knew no one. I was scared and alone. Everything was new to me. The city, the school, the people. My only desire was to find a friend, or even just someone to talk to. I remember the first person I shared a few words with. She was asking our English teacher if she knew how to get to the biology classroom. Being the curious little freshman that I was, I overheard the question. I saw my golden opportunity to make a friend and ran with it. I went up to her and told her that I knew where that class was, and I offered to help her get there. I'm telling you, it's by God's grace that I actually made it to that class, because I honestly had no idea where I was going. We've all come a long way from the first day high school. 4 years tends to do that to anyone. Many of you can't remember who that first person was who you talked to. Not because you choose not to, but because the people you were around have changed. We have all lost friends and made new ones. Some of us question why it took us so long to find the friends that we have now. We must all be thankful, though, that we were given the opportunity to get to know each other, if even for this short period of time. No matter where God and our life takes us, I know that we all have a bright future ahead of us. Whether we are headed to college, jumping straight into the workforce, or taking some time off to travel and relax, there will always be challenges that come our way. It's our responsibility to face those tough times with our heads held high and with the confidence that we can get through anything, no matter how hard the matter is really appear. Don't misunderstand that we should just get by in life, as we would never want to die and discover that we never truly lived. It's sometimes difficult to see our world for what it is. We sometimes struggle to see that its successes are built off of the efforts and accomplishments of every single one of us. Our successes are not simply our own, but are shared by everyone. Our accomplishments not only build off of those of our predecessors, but also inspire those who fall into aim and higher. We live in a world that may seem individualistic, where each of us is separated into our own spheres, apart from the rest of the world. Yet in reality, we have never been more interdependent than we are now. My challenge to each and every one of you, and to myself, is to try and succeed in everything. Remember, your successes are not only yours, they are all of ours. We all in some way depend on each other's accomplishments to then strive for our own. I also challenge you to make memories in everything you do, and if there's ever a time you feel like you might forget something, take a picture of it. That picture will serve as a trigger for your memories. It will also allow you to relive what you might be or have already forgotten. This does not mean that you should dwell in those past moments. You should just never forget about them, because what we have experienced in a powerful way influences who we are in the future. Lastly, I leave all of you with these words by Henry David Thoreau. Live in the present. Launch yourself on every wave. Find eternity in each moment. Thank you, and may God bless the class of 2013.